Hydration. Hi, I'm here from Word on the Curve podcast. Thanks for joining me here this evening. It's good to see you back. For those of you who are joining for the first time now or later, we welcome you. I am the host of Word on the Curve podcast. Again, my name is Annette Latique. Thank you for joining me here this evening. As I remind you often, hydrate, hydrate, eat fruit, moisturize your feet, hands, and face, and mind your business. Now, for some people, that's a little difficult to do, but I'm going to hop right into the topic tonight because it's exciting. Right. So, the topic tonight says stop spinning. And what that means is to stop spinning the block. What do we mean by spinning the block? It's simple in that. It's real simple. Don't go back. Don't go back. The only reason you turn around and go back is if there's a legitimate bag waiting there for you. I'd like to remind you that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? Think pink and get your mammograms, men and women alike, okay? Pay attention to your history and get your mammograms. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about spinning. And most of us spend at the job. We spend with our families. We spend with our friends. We spend with our business partners. Socially we spend. And sometimes, you got to circle a little bit. But there are instances where you should never circle the block. And I'm going to give you a few, not many, just a few tonight, because spinning the block is a waste of your time, energy, and effort. That's right. Your time, energy, and effort. Have a friend who betrayed you? Don't spin the block on them. Don't go back. Let them keep moving forward however they best see fit. And I mean, however they best see fit. And I don't care who it is. Family, they're not acting right. Don't spin the block on them. Wish them well, because at the end of the day, right, we're all accountable for the things that we do. And sometimes we have a tendency to spin the block and take a look at others instead of looking at ourselves. And we don't understand that we get lost when we do that. Hey, JW, it's good to see you. We get lost when we do that. And so, we're in situations where people do things. I promise you, I've lived long enough to guarantee you that whatever happens, we're all going to get our just due. Every single one of us. Sometimes you'll live to see them get it, and sometimes you won't. But the bottom line is nobody escapes the bus stop. The karma bus will always pull up. Going back to deal with people who've done things to hurt you doesn't work unless you're in therapy and you're guided by a trained, licensed therapist. And so spinning the block also has to deal with generational curses. Now, I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any magic spells or things over which we have no control. I'm talking about generational curses, spinning the block on them. And that means repeating them, right? I know if I let off with that a lot of you wouldn't be able to come in and get what you needed here tonight and to get what I needed to share. Generational curses are in every single family. Now, the difference is whether you recognize them or not. And here's the hit. Maybe you won't recognize that there's a generational curse in your family. This does not apply to perfect families, okay? It doesn't. It applies to families like mine. Those of us who are perfectly imperfect, it applies to families like mine. Generational curses may not be something that you're aware of right from the top. I wasn't. I thought that I had a pretty decent childhood and everything, worked out okay. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was good. I had two people who loved me, mother and a father. I had older brothers, older sisters, I'm the baby girl of the family, and it was just cool, right? But check this out. There was a generational curse there as well. And that generational curse had to do with disagreement. It had been passed down through generations, where it was just so easily accepted that folks would disagree. That's a curse. That's not mandatory. That's not a rite of passage. That's not what families have to do. But in my family, that was the generational curse, the opportunity to disagree whenever anybody felt like it. I don't know about you, but you've been at the cookouts where that uncle who wasn't drinking water like we are, right? We're drinking coconut pineapple water tonight. I'm not supporting anybody, so I just want you to see we're drinking coconut pineapple water. Um, who would show up and turn the cookout out and tell everybody who they didn't belong to or that they did. That was back in the day, right? So that wasn't my family. My family was the disagreement part. Oh, I don't agree with that. It could be a can of paint and somebody wouldn't agree with it just because they thought disagreement was absolutely acceptable in every situation. It's not mandatory. So I just wanted to tell you that. And when we have generational curses in our family and we don't know it, it makes it more difficult to deal with it. And sometimes we have to grow up, move out, and move away before we recognize, like, hey, there's a pattern here. And where did it come from? No matter where it starts, where does it end? And so when people say, oh, it's always been that way, well, it ends with me. Okay? That's how generational curses end. If there's incest, if there's abuse, domestic violence, if there is literally fighting amongst siblings and family, those are curses that are typically handed down. You get used to seeing mom do it. Mom's used to seeing grandmom do it. Grandmom's used to seeing great grandma and great pa do it, right? So they continue it. Those are generational curses. I stopped by tonight to ask you humbly to stop spinning the block on those generational curses. Cut them off. And I said sometimes you have to move out and move away before you recognize, what they are and where they might come from. If you're somebody who likes to argue all the time, now disagreement may not necessarily mean an argument. It could simply mean that there's always somebody saying, I don't agree. They have turkey for Thanksgiving. There'll be somebody at the table. I don't agree. I don't think we should eat meat. And today, neither do I. But the bottom line is turkey is served on Thanksgiving, dig it or ig it. But that fighting and throwing things and throwing hands, those are curses too. You can break that curse. That's not just the way your family is. That's not just what you do. Break that curse. Stop spinning the block on nonsense. 2 things. There may be 3 here. And then we're going to wrap it up because we don't have to be long for you to get the message, right? You may not be aware of a generational curse. So what you have to do is start looking at patterns that you start to see over and over and over again. And it could be with your friends. It could be with your family. It could be on the job. It could be anywhere. For example, I can give you an example on my job where the generational curse that was brought down through the people who work there and their families and their friends that it seems the less education and experience you had, the more they thought you were better prepared for the job. I'm going to leave that there. That's a topic for another day. But the bottom line is these generational curses don't have to be in families. They can come down through business. They can come down through employment, social circles, everywhere. Friendships, they can come down. These curses can come down anywhere. And when you recognize a pattern, you have to make a decision that you're not going to spin the block on that. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm suggesting humbly tonight. Stop spinning the block on nonsense. Generational curses happen everywhere. Sometimes it's disagreement. Something the everywhere is the second point. You may not recognize it as the first. They happen everywhere. Don't expect them to just be sitting in at the family dining room table or the sofa, depending on where you eat. I mean, you know what your story is. I don't. Excuse me. Stop the generational curses. Stop spinning the block. You may not recognize it, but you do know what patterns are. Look for them. Be aware of them. Don't have to be paranoid about them. For example, if you see somebody who doesn't get along with it, everywhere they go, they're falling out with people because somebody's done something to them. That has more to do with them than it does anybody else. Recognize that. Don't take ownership of it. Stop being the trauma center for everybody and everything. Stop spinning the block. And the third and final thing is when you recognize that there is a generational, misbehavior in you, do something about it. I'd like to thank you again for joining me this evening. My name is Annette. It is always a pleasure to have you here. Hey, what about that debate last night? We're not going to talk politics, but for those of you who don't know, not voting is actually treason. That's right. Not voting is treason. And for those of you out here who took this opportunity and or this debate to wax about what somebody on this side did or didn't do, I think you're a little late to the game, which means you already don't understand what's happening. Get with somebody who does. Ask questions. No matter what happens, you have to vote. Make a decision, the AKA or KKK, and that's all I have to say about that. Have a good evening. And again, thank you for joining me here. Make your own decisions. If you don't recognize the curses from, being in your circles, whatever those circles are, notice patterns and take care of yourself because you don't have to continue to suffer. Once you become aware and you continue to suffer, you're making a conscious decision to do that. Again, my name is Annette. I'm here at Word on the Curve. Have a good evening and thanks for joining me. Drink your water, eat your fruit, mind your business, and moisturize your feet, hands, and face. Good night.